So let me tell you a story, everybody. Let me tell you a story. I flew out to Canada going on Sunday just last week. Today is Friday. So to keep that all clear. So last week on Sunday, I flew out to Canada for a really great reason. I flew out to Play on Tabletop, the wonderful group of people who make 40K battle reports. We created a collab, and I packed up surprisingly well too. I only had one broken model into a check bag, nicely pressed pillow, really kept it nice and feeling pretty good. And I flew all the way up from here to Canada to play with them. 2 full games. They were long games. I mean, when you watch their content, you'll realize that holy hell, it is a ton of effort and chat. Like, it's almost like sports based, you know, like the amount of angles and like interviews and stuff. It's a huge deal. So the first game I played some sisters against. I actually won't spoil it too much because the videos will be out in like late October, early November because they take a while to edit. So I'll let those arrive when they arrive. But I played Sisters and Night Lords. Great stuff. Lovely games. Had a blast. The second day though, was really long. We started late, and then by the time we were finally done with the game and all the recording and all the filming, it was midnight. I drove back from there to the hotel and eventually got back to the hotel at 12:15, packed up all my stuff, all my things, my minis back in the bag, the whole thing, went to bed around 12:45. I wake up at 6:15 in the morning. I shower, I get in my rental car, I drive 45 minutes all the way to Vancouver International Airport, and I end up dropping off my car to get ready for my flight. At about 8:30, I roll up and I go to the US Customs and border and whatever. And they say, your passport has been reported lost or stolen. And I'm like, but I got to Canada using this passport. And then I thought to myself for a little bit and I realized something. Oh yeah, that's right. I reported my passport as lost or stolen about 2 years ago when I had moved out of a prior place and into that apartment I was in for like 7 months, give or take. I moved and I reported stolen or lost because I couldn't find it. But then I ended up finding it eventually after like a bunch of luggage and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool, awesome. So I got my passport, all's good, I found it. But I didn't unreport it as lost or stolen. I just found it. And I haven't left the country since then in 2 years. So they were like, yeah, you're still allowed to, however, you could still go on your flight, but we have to confiscate your passport. And I'm like, that's a little bizarre, but okay. So they took me to that area where they like, it looks like the DMV where they question you and stuff. They took the passport, like, all right, so they scanned a copy of it for me for the records, and they disposed of the passport, and then they let me through. And I was like, well, that's fucking annoying, but whatever, I'll get a new passport eventually at some point. Make my way to the gates, the terminal gates, stay there for an hour and a half, just kind of waiting. Now I don't board the plane when it's my time to board the plane. I wait till the end. I make my way up, and I talk with them, and they're like, you can't fly to America without your passport. And I'm like, they said I could. And then after like 10 minutes of back and forth on the phone, then with someone else, they said, okay, here's what happened. The US Consul or Customs Services does not care that you do not have your passport to go into the terminal. But Air Canada Association or something, because I was flying Air Canada, is fined a shitload of money if they fly anyone to the US without a valid passport, like tens of thousands of dollars. So while they technically legally can fly me to America, they will be fined a massive amount. So they reject me. And so I say, okay. So like I'm not a Karen, you know, I'm not yelling or anything. I say, all right, how do I get back to the States? And they say, you'll need to get back to the States by ground and take a flight from from the States domestically. And okay, so luckily we're in Vancouver, right? Now, if you don't know much about the geography, let me give you, this is why I opened this all up for. Let me squeeze you guys over here. Here is a map. In this map, here is Vancouver. The closest airport in the States from Vancouver is Bellingham, right down here. All right. So then I'm like, okay, how do I get across the border without my passport? And they say, talk to the Canadian Border Agency, Customs, or whatever the hell. So I leave. But because I'm leaving from the terminal, I have to re-enter Canada via their customs. So, but I don't have my passport, so I can't scan anything. So I fill out the entire thing by hand, pencil and everything, and I go to give it to the people, and I tell them what happened. And they give me a fucking like a little piece of paper, and they say, go wait here. And so I entered in what can only be described as the deporting room, basically. And I sit there for 30 minutes, and then they yell out like, Mr. Brick. Not my real name, but I walk up. Why don't you have a passport? Like, this and the thing, they took it, the thing. All right, sit down. 30 more minutes. Mr. Brick, stand up. Take this, give it to the guard. I go to the guard. I give him the thing to enter back into Canada. And as I'm leaving, he's like, hey, do you do YouTube? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you play CSGO? And I'm like, no. He's like, oh, so you're not the War Owl? And I'm like, no. This is the War Owl, for those of you who are curious about. This is War Owl. He's a CSGO and like other shooter YouTuber. And so I'm like, no, I do YouTube stuff, yeah, but I'm not the War Owl. And so I enter back into Canada through the terminal, and I go talk to the Customs and Border Agency or whatever. And I ask them what to do, and they say, okay, there's the U.S. Customs group here in the airport, but they're no longer on the pre-security side. They've currently moved to the other security side, to the inside. So you're gonna have to call them. So they gave me a number. I called them 6 times, and they never picked up. And so I walked back to the guy, and I'm like, they're not picking up. And he's like, yeah, they do that to us too. You just have to keep trying them. And I'm like, okay, where else can I go? And it's like, you can call the U.S. Consul Service in downtown Vancouver. Okay, cool. I call the consul service. About 10 minutes of automated stuff, I get to a person. I tell them my situation. They say, you can send this to this email, label it as urgent, etc., etc. All right. I send this thing to the email, explain my situation. Typical response time, 3 business days. Cool. That's out of the question. Awesome. I look at, okay, what do I need in order to get into the States if I don't have my passport, but I'm an American citizen? A Nexus card. It's kind of like TSA pre-check, but a different type of thing. I go over to the Nexus station. I ask them what the difficulty is for applying. 12-month time frame. 12 months for you to get Nexus like thumbs up. Like, okay, that's not happening. At this point, I don't know what the fuck to do. So I'm like, you know what? You know fucking what? I get on my phone and I call the border. I call the cops. The border cops, the US border cops on Washington border. Like the dudes who are just there. I call them. And this random guy is like, Oh yeah, no, that's totally fine, dude. Just bring your driver's license. We'll confirm you're a U.S. citizen. You're fine. Just go across the border. And I'm like, I've been getting the runaround for this. It's about 1 p.m. right now, by the way. I've been getting the runaround for like 4 hours by Canadian services, and for some reason, the U.S. border cop is the most lax of them all. The U.S. Now, great, this is a Canadian border, not the Mexican border, and that obviously makes a difference. But I'm like, oh my god. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just drive across the border. I go to the rental car spot of Vancouver, sold out. I drive Enterprise, sold out. Hertz, Avis, Budget, all of them are taken. Every single rental car in the entire airport is taken because it's like a college week. And so everyone's like leaving and visiting. I go and get a taxi, 10 minutes to another Enterprise. You know, let me pull up the map here. This airport right here, right? I get another fucking taxi to right over here off Bridgeport Road in Vancouver to another Enterprise, sold out. And then I look, every single Enterprise rental car from here to the border is completely booked. I find one car, from Hertz, down in White Rock. And guess what? You cannot drive it to America. You cannot drive it and leave it in America because it's a Canadian car. You can if it's an airport-based car, because that's what the whole thing is. You cannot do that. And so I call the cop up again. Like, what do I do? Like, okay, like, can I Uber over the border? And he's like, sure, just explain everything. So I call an Uber and I tell them, can you take me over the border? It's an hour drive. Can you do it? And he's like, yeah, but I don't have my passport. I'm like, just drop me off. Just drop me off. That's fine. So I Uber an hour to the border. He drops my ass off. And here I am at the duty and tax-free shop on the border with, there's your boy, there's the border, with, and there's me walking my ass over with my full luggage, my backpack and my suitcase, my full luggage, walking across the goddamn border. Bicycles and pedestrians from Canada are required to check in at ports. I ask if I can walk across to the shop. There's a gift shop there to ask questions to, but they're closed. Look at my fucking ass. It's my luggage right there. So I couldn't get any answers there. So I walked through there the whole way, and I get to the fucking the border like place. There's two lines. One of them is obviously immigration and immigrants, and you know, because it's like all kinds of really long line, checking papers, that kind of thing. I stand in the pedestrian line for half an hour. I wait. I'm first in line, by the way. I'm the only one in line. Half an hour I stand there. Pedestrian waves me down. I talk to the guy. And I'm like, here's my ID and stuff. I don't have my passport. I'm like, why? Explain the whole thing. His exact words, bro, you had a fucking day. And I'm like, yeah, I have. Any tips on how to get down south? And so he takes me out the back, gives me his stuff, and he's like, walk 10 minutes down that direction, hit a roundabout, take a right. There's a Starbucks in Blaine, Washington, population 5,000. You can order an Uber from that Starbucks. So I go that way to Blaine, Washington. I go to a bakery. I order a bacon and cheese croissant and a pumpkin cookie on this cute little table to kind of help my emotions a little bit, you know? In Blaine, Washington. This is Blaine, Washington. It's so cute. It is a beautiful, small Washington town. It is a super cute town. You know, here's Blaine, Washington, right here. This is like the entire city. It's so small. Um, oh yeah, here it is, L&L Bakery. Yeah, this is the place I was in. Yep. They have little like macarons and stuff. This is the table I sat at right here. This cute little bakery. I walk on over to this Starbucks right here in Blaine, Washington, and I order a Starbucks there, and I start looking for flights. I start looking for flights and stuff. Bellingham, no dice. No dice. No flights available. At least none that don't take like 13 hours or whatever. Seattle, down here. Yes, flights. I look at how long it would take me there to drive there. I would miss the flight by an hour. Portland. Exact same thing. I would miss the flight by an hour. Like, okay, I look tomorrow. The only doable flight back to California is yesterday, Thursday, in the morning, at like 3 p.m. from Portland. So I need to get to Portland. Luckily, I have a friend in Portland. I can spend the night at Portland without having to pay for a hotel. Awesome. Great. I can lodge up in Portland for the night. Do that whole thing. I order an Uber from Blaine, Washington, down to Bellingham Airport to go look for cars. Also, so here's the Starbucks I was at in Blaine, Washington. I asked someone to take a picture. There's your boy with a grande cold brew and his full luggage in the middle of Blaine, Washington Starbucks. So I get the Uber down to Bellingham. I tell the Uber, I'm like, hey guy, can you wait outside for like 5 minutes while I see if they have a car? I go into there. No cars. 0 cars. None. Again. So I say, my friend, how far south can you take me? How far south can you take me? I need to get to fucking like Portland. And he said, I can go as far as Everett. Everett. Mr. Dubois, Everett, right here. From Bellingham. So this guy drives me a total of 2 hours from Blaine all the way down to Everett. His name was Jeff. Jeff is a baller. He works in the cannery and fishing industry. He's retired now. But he works in the fishing. He worked in the fishing industry. Would go to Alaska for half the year and work in production. Jeff was a baller. He dropped me off at a random Albertsons in Everett. Actually, I think it was actually in Marysville, not Everett. I think it's like right here. It was a combination of Starbucks and Albertsons at the same time. Oh, there it is. This Albertsons right here, off 4th in Marysville. After that, I get another Uber. This guy right here. His name is Sammy. Sammy's been in the fucking States for 5 years from Kenya. Sammy picked me up from fucking Marysville and took my ass 2 hours and 45 minutes through Seattle traffic all the way down to goddamn Maytown below Olympia. From Everett up here through Seattle at 5 o'clock p.m. on a Wednesday to Olympia. At that point, I then got picked up by my friend and driven down an additional hour and a half to Portland. I got in at about 10 p.m. and I had a steak dinner and bread. That's my bread. And I went to bed at 11 p.m., woke up yesterday morning and took my flight back to Portland, from Portland to California. So what I'm trying to say, the most out of anything, is that the next time I stream, there will be a donation goal for Canadian reparations. And I expect all of you, Canadians specifically, to pitch in.